I was going to tell this story in a future episode, but I realized my caregiver journey, this unplanned pivot, is vital in explaining how I arrived here at this moment as an advocate for caregivers. Over the last few months, I've been working on clearly defining in my mind how to explain my why. I've been a caregiver for over 42 years. The whole branding exercise has actually been a challenging process for me because when I started digging into my why, I had to ask myself, how much did I truly want to share? I always start with my daughter's story. It's a good place to start. How my healthy 3.5-month-old daughter starts having seizures and is rushed to the base hospital in Japan. You see, I was stationed in the Air Force at the time. And then she was medevaced to a Japanese hospital for treatment, where she stays for over a month. Her liver stops functioning. She has swelling on the brain. She receives 4 full body blood transfusions. And she is diagnosed with Reye syndrome. I didn't even know what it was at the time. Once she is stable, we are transported back to the States for treatment at Walter Reed Hospital in Washington, D.C. That is my daughter's medical origin story and how I became a caregiver out of necessity. Because at this point, she's not reacting to anything. She's fully not functioning. And we've got to figure out how to get her from happy, healthy, normal baby to where she is now and how to keep her moving forward. And I was 22 years old. Initially, I was going to work on a documentary covering my daughter's story. I planned on sharing a clip from a 1985 Reye syndrome documentary when my daughter was 3 years old. I did place a link to a clip in the episode description if you want to watch it. And I wanted to show where she was right now, like what happened in all this time. Most children from Reye syndrome do not survive. They die because they're misdiagnosed. The fact that she is alive all these years later is a miracle. There are many times we didn't think she'd get to her 10th birthday, her 12th birthday, her 20th birthday, her 30th birthday. The girl is 42 years old. Like, none of us expected that. I wanted to do one of those how it started, where we are thing. But then I asked myself, could I truly capture those 42 years in 90 minutes or 2 hours? And then I said, oh, we could go deeper. We could do a docuseries instead because you see my son is a videographer. He's got the skills, the equipment. We could have done this thing and it would have taken all this time. And I was this place where I was like, I need to talk to caregivers now. I need to find a way to talk to them now. Reason for the podcast. But the other thing I wasn't focusing on was what about me? Because everything I'm saying at this point would be about my daughter. I was not focusing on the caregiver story, on my caregiver story. It was and has always been natural for me to tell her story and not talk about me. But to really connect with other caregivers, I needed to be open and vulnerable and share my story. Share those hard moments, those joyous moments, those defeating moments. You see, being a caregiver is typically not planned. Nobody plans for this. You're stepping into the moment. It is a pure form of unconditional love. Could I truthfully tell my story? How could my story somehow inspire a family just starting or in the middle of their caregiver journey? My reality at 22, I didn't know what I was doing. I just knew I had to take care of my daughter because I was all she had. I was not married to her father at the time. We married later, and we had another child, my son. We eventually divorced, another pivotal moment, another story I may or may not share. Here's an interesting thing. When people would see me with my children, my daughter in her wheelchair, their first comment to me, "You're an angel. You're an exceptional parent." I never saw it that way. I was a mom doing what all moms do for their children. Nothing exceptional here. Their praise was, and still for me, very uncomfortable because it's something I do regardless. I do not expect any reward from it. And I would like to think my children would care for me if our roles were reversed. Do I have guilt? Do I have regrets? Am I sad occasionally? Yes, to all of these questions. But I also instinctively found ways to take care of myself. In the beginning, not so frequently. I had to be honest, I didn't really do it. More so as my children got old. I learned I needed to respect and honor myself, my body, and focus on my health if I wanted to continue caring for my daughter. I decided to move through this world with purpose and to be mindful of how I interact with others. I decided to be honest and direct because life is short. I am my own carer. I take myself to lunch or to a movie or plan a staycation or take a short trip to replenish my soul so I can be fully engaged when I return. No matter how someone becomes a caregiver, it is typically out of love. No matter how much they give, they still need to make sure they're not depleting themselves. Most importantly, it is okay. Hear me, please. It is okay for caregivers to do things for themselves. It is important not to put things off. So instead of tomorrow, I will, caregivers must find the time to say, today I will.